Moments ago, I watched the 1989 horror movie Clownhouse. I remember seeing this movie, well, parts of it back in the day when I was like about no, younger than that, about when I was about 15, 16 years of age. I remember going to a car boot sale with some friends and coming across these old VHS tapes. These VHS tapes, and the guy selling these VHS tapes was just so desperate to get rid of these tapes. No one was buying them, and it was like £1 for 3 VHS tapes. He wanted to desperately get rid of them in this used bin. And the one VHS tape that stood out to me was what you see here at the side of me, Clownhouse from 1989. Now, I didn't remember much about this movie, but I just got done watching it moments ago. The reason why I'm shaking my head, the reason why I've got this sickening vomit feeling in my stomach, was not exactly the movie itself, but what went on behind the scenes during this movie's production. I wasn't aware of any of this shit until fairly recently. The director of this movie, well, I'm going to try and explain this the best I can. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what went on, but the director of this movie, Victor Salva, that's right, Victor Salva. Just saying that name makes me want to punch the fucking guy's lights out. I mean, he's the same director that did Jeepers Creepers 1, 2 and 3. And he also did this movie Clownhouse from 1989. Before I get into the movie, I'm going to explain what went on behind the scenes. Okay, and it's sickening, it's disgusting, and I'm not going to get into full detail, but I did read in full detail online about what this asshole did. But I'm not going to say what live here on the camera. I'm going to cut a long story short. The lead kid in this movie, Clownhouse, Casey, played by Nathan Forrest Winters, was sexually molested by Victor Salva, the director. There was even a sexual act performed on Victor from Nathan Forrest Winters, and it was recorded. And of course, when the investigation took place, Victor was found guilty, but only served a small amount of time into his sentence. And they also found child you-know-what in his house. A word that I don't like using. The guy should be shot fucking dead for what he did to that poor kid. It's sickening, it's disgusting, there's no excuse. It's a fucking abysmal world. And when you're watching this movie Clownhouse, he plays this kid by the name of Casey, who's got a fear of clowns. And also in this movie, you've got Brian McHugh, who's Jeffrey, his next oldest brother. And then you've got the oldest brother, Randy, played by Sam Rockwell in this movie. And I liked Sam Rockwell. He was in my favourite movie, The Green Mile, played Wild Billy. So I didn't realise that until I looked him up. I mean, when I first watched this film and I saw Sam Rockwell's character, Randy, I thought to myself, he looks like a young Wild Bill. And when I looked it up, he did play Wild Billy in The Green Mile. So, and he was, again, he did an outstanding performance in The Green Mile. But in this movie, he's such a dick. He's like the eldest brother of these two kids, and he's a complete dick, always insulting them, always picking on them, particularly on Casey, who's got this fear of clowns. The film opens up with Casey having a nightmare. He's walking down the fucking hallway shirtless, and he's like 12 years old. And then this poster comes flying up against the window, which is a clown, informing them that there's going to be a circus. And he pisses himself by having a bad dream. And the following morning, his brother comes into the room, and you see Casey's bare ass. And he says, "You're sleeping your bare ass now?" And while all this is happening, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is hard to watch. This is creepy. You know, I don't want to see a movie that shows kids like that. Or anything for that matter. It's fucking wrong. Fucking... I'm not going to get into any more detail about what Victor did or anything like that, but I'll just say this movie, Clownhouse, on the whole, it's not a good movie. Alright, I think the acting from the lead three kids are not good. I mean, I feel for Nathan Forrest Winters for what he went through. The poor kid. Brian McKeown plays Jeffrey, the next oldest brother. He's sort of caught up in the middle, but he's trying to protect Casey from the abuse that he's getting from Randy, Sam Rockwell's character. Because he's a complete dick, he always makes fun of his brother, you know, and all that kind of thing. Anyhow, these three kids, they go to the circus while their parents are away. Despite Casey having chlorophobia. You know. So they go to the circus while the parents are away. And there's a scene at the circus where Casey's absolutely terrified of this clown who's pulling on his own arm to try and get him to come up and do a circus act. And I'm thinking, that's assault. You know, this clown is literally terrifying the kid, Casey, by pulling on his arm. Casey's trying to pull back, going, no, I don't want to get up. And the clown's continually pulling him and tugging him to try and get him to come up and do an act with him. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, that's assault. You know, why isn't this clown getting arrested? Why is no one helping him, you know? Why ain't he being fired? You know what I mean? And at the same time, these three psychotic people escape from a mental asylum. They go to the circus, they kill the three clowns, and they dress up as the clowns, wear the clothes, wear the makeup, etc. And while all this is happening, Casey's seen a fortune teller, and the fortune teller is telling Casey that his lifeline has been cut short and that he must take great care because danger's going to happen to him. And then the film kind of drags on from there to lead up to the third act. But when it does get to the third act, we see more disturbing things. Casey taking a bath. And I'm thinking, do you really need this in a film? You know, who the fuck's making this film? Why is there so many nude scenes of kids in this movie? It's fucking disgusting. I mean, you know, it makes perfect sense that Victor Salva's directing this. You know what I mean? Excuse me while I... This movie, Clownhouse, I mean, I've seen way better clown movies. The Stephen King's It, although I don't say that the second episode is all that great. It's only the first episode which is which is the best one. There's Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which came out around about the same year as this movie. I even choose that movie above Clownhouse. But let's say if you're watching this movie for the first time and you knew nothing about what was going on behind the scenes, you knew nothing about what Victor was doing, you would see this as a creepy movie because there's scenes in this movie where the three clowns are stalking the three brothers. They go to the house when there's a power cut. And there's even a scene, you know, where Casey's running through the woods and the clowns are chasing them. and they don't realise it. So the idea about these clowns escaping from being disguised as these psychotic guys from the asylum and stalking these kids is a pretty good idea for like a horror movie. You know, a good idea. And the fact that they're terrorising them and stalking them and trying to capture them while they're in the house, while there's a power cut, you know, it's a good idea. But on the whole, it's not a good movie. This movie, Clownhouse. The dialogue's not that great. The acting is not good. You know, like I say, you've got the three lead kids. You got Casey, who you feel sorry for because of simply what went on behind the scenes. You get the next oldest brother, Brian's character. Yeah, Brian McHugh's Jeffrey's character, where there's not really much to say about him. And then you've got Sam Rockwell's character as Randy, who's a complete dick. You know, making fun of his brother and coming out with these lame dialogues to insult everybody. And there's that question about, did he die in this movie? Because there's a scene where a clown pulls him through a window and you don't see him for a little while. But then later on, Casey and his brother are trying to pull him to safety. And there's no telling if the brother is actually dead or alive. But the film just rolls on with the two brothers are hugging each other and the credits roll. Like, but I've seen scarier clown movies. You know, I think killer clowns are awesome. You know what I mean? But after just watching this movie and again going back to what happened during the production of this movie, it kind of gives clowns a bad name. You know what I mean? Especially the scary ones. But the movie Clownhouse, I don't recommend it for any horror fanatic. I mean, like I say, that Victor needs to be fucking hung for what he fucking did. He needs to be fucking hung. And to be honest, I've never been a fan of his work, not even Jeepers Creepers. I mean, I know a lot of people are a big fan of Jeepers Creepers, but I'm not really a big fan of Jeepers Creepers. And after finding out that he directed those movies, I have no fucking intention of watching any of his films ever again. You know what I mean? So, Clownhouse, I mean, usually I like films that have killer clowns in them, but this one from 1989, especially 1989, because during that time, you had Killer Clowns from Outer Space coming out, and you had all these dark atmosphered horror movies that really stood out. You know, but this movie, it's not on for very long. I mean, it's like on for like 80 minutes, something like that. It's a slow-paced film. But there's times when you're watching this film and you feel like the scenes are going on for too long, and I don't know. It's just not a very interesting film at all. You know, I couldn't care less about the people praising this movie. I mean, I think there's something wrong with you, you know. Like I said, the movie itself, if you watch this movie and you didn't know what happened behind the scenes, you still wouldn't think it's a very good movie. Although it does have its spooky moments, like the clowns chasing the kids through the woods so they don't know they're being chased. The concept about the clowns going into the house, sneaking into the house to get these three kids while there's a power cut. You know, creepy scenes, you know what I mean? But there's other scenes like I don't really want to get into again that I just do not want to watch while I'm watching a fucking horror movie. You know what I mean? Shirtless kids and all that kind of shit. I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Oh. But I'm glad this movie's over. It's definitely not a movie that I'm going to watch again. You know, it's not a movie I'm going to watch again. And I really do hope that director gets everything that's coming to him. You know, one of these days. Because he didn't serve a long sentence at all. I mean, he got straight back into directing as soon as he got released on parole or something like that. You know, so... Ugh. Glad it's over. But, yeah, it's one that I don't recommend people watching, you know, because it's just not a very good clown movie. There's better killer clown movies out there that are worth watching, you know, so... that's it, everybody. I'm glad it's over, and hopefully in my next review I can get into talking to something about something positive, you know what I mean? But thank fuck that's over, never again. Peace out. Yay.